What is going on, guys? I'm here to give you an update on players that you might want to pick up or players that have been succeeding, teams that have been succeeding early on, have looked good, and might be very good fantasy options this season. I know it's a bit early to determine this, but you really want to get a jump on these guys really early and based off of what you've seen from them. I first want to start off by talking about a few guys that you might want to pick up. I want to talk about all the players that are added the most in fantasy hockey right now, and that is currently Alexander Georgiev and Jacob Chitrin. I think both those guys are reasonable. I think Igor Shesterkin is still going to take over the leading job later in the season, but again, it's going to be a short season, so maybe Georgiev is going to get more credit since he started to do well early. Um, and obviously Shesterkin had a pretty bad first game. I think Jacob Chitrin is definitely a guaranteed player that you want on your team. Oliver Ekman Larson is going to be out this season. Sorry about that stutter. I think if Chitrin takes over his position, his point totals are going to boost up a lot more. And he's looked really good so far in this season. So I think he's a pretty good pickup. Alexander Romanov, he's a guy that's only going to be valuable in bangers leagues. I know he's got, I think, 2 points in 3 games so far, and it looks like really good production. But again, I think he could easily have only like 1 or maybe even 0 points this season. But he is a guy that consistently hits. Like, he will definitely be hitting a lot, and I think his shots will continuously um, stay the same around. I think he's been averaging. I'm going to be looking it up on my phone right now, but he has been averaging around 3 shots per game. I think he's shot 3 times every game. He's had 4 hits, 5 hits, and 1 hit, and then 2 block shots. And I think he's got 6 block shots so far in 3 games. He will get plenty of ice time, I think, this season, and I don't think you guys should worry at all about him not getting enough ice time or not scoring enough points, because I think the main reason to pick him up is for those peripheral stats that he's going to keep boosting up there. I know in the KHL he didn't score that many points when he played there, so I don't think that in the NHL he's going to score. Maybe he's going to have like more of a Colton Parayko line where he has a really good rookie season with goals and he hits a lot, has a lot of good other peripherals, but again, those stats are really important in some of these leagues, and I think he's a really good pickup in maybe deeper leagues or even 12-team leagues when you have a bad fourth defenseman. Um, Again, there's some other players that have been doing well. Justin Falk is another one. I think he's interesting. He obviously had 2 goals in 3 games. He had no points other than the 2 goals that he had in this last game, but he is a good option in terms of fantasy production. I could see him becoming like a number 4 defenseman for fantasy options in a 12-team format, a good number 4 defenseman. So I don't think he's that bad overall. But again, Alexander Pietrangelo, he left the the St. Louis Blues to the Vegas and moved to the Vegas Golden Knights, and he is going to be maybe taking a bigger role this season. Justin Falk is for St. Louis, so I could definitely see that happening. Keith Yandel, he should always be picked up. Obviously, I know there were some doubts about him starting. I think Coach Q said that, something like that, and I don't know why you would not pick him up, but he's a good number 4 defenseman as well. But 12-team leagues are really deep. I actually do like Rasmus Anderson quite a bit. He's a free agent in my league, and I might actually pick him up. But he is the number 1 defenseman for Calgary on the power play unit, and he's looked really good. I think Calgary's looked really good as a team. Obviously, he's had a lot more chances than his points represent. He actually has had a few almost goals already this season. He should probably have like 5 points already, based off of how his team has performed and how he's performed in the offensive zone. I was watching the game last night, Vancouver versus Calgary, and he's looked really good. Another thing is Nick Suzuki's looked really good this season. I didn't expect him to do as well as he has been doing right now. I didn't project him that to be this good, but I think he'll be almost a point per game player this season. He's just looked really good, and I think he's going to be all over the Montreal lineups. Like he's going to be put into the spots when Montreal needs a goal. He's going to be the guy that's going to be out there when they have an empty net. He's going to be touching the puck a lot. He's like their main contributor for points, so I could definitely see him becoming at least a point per game player. Another player that's available that's been highly rated is Connor Garland. Connor Garland's an iffy one for me, to be honest. He's a player he was one of Arizona's top scorers last season, and he is pretty young. But again, Arizona's a very defensive style team. But if you look at the teams that they're playing this season, they're playing a lot of teams that are just not all that great defensively. So Arizona might be scoring a lot more points than they would if they were playing other teams in other leagues. They don't play as many of those defensive style teams that they are. So, I mean, they play San Jose like 7 times, I believe. In San Jose, they already played twice, and they scored, I think, 7, 8 goals or something like that against them. I mean, that's pretty accurate for what they're expected to do against a team like San Jose who can't defend anything. But yeah, I think he's a reasonable pickup. I would maybe take a little bit more risk with my picks. I think Connor Garland's maybe a more safe bet to be like 40, 45 points in 56 games. He was kind of like that last season. He was a little bit over a point every other game type player. Maybe he was like averaging like 35 points per 56 games, but again, he's still not a terrible option. Jordan Kyrou is maybe like a little bit more of a risky pick that I would pick over him. He's a player in St. Louis that he's very young. He's had 3 points so far in the 3 games that they played. It looks like he's getting plenty of ice time. I think 13 minutes and 14 minutes in the 2 wins, and then 8 minutes in the 1 loss that they had. But he's a player that I just see that has the potential to score a lot of points for St. Louis and kind of be in their power play unit or something like that down the road, or maybe he is in their power play unit right now. I'm not too familiar with it right now, but again, like they're going to be using players like Mike Hoffman and David Perron over him, so it might be tougher for him to get as many points as those guys, but I still see him as a very valuable asset, and I could see him being a potential pickup. When it comes to a team like Ottawa, who's got a bunch of young players. Oh, Kirill Kaprizov, that's another player I wanted to mention. He is a player that I drafted in one of my leagues. I think I showed it. He's definitely a guy that you want to keep, or a guy that you want to pick up. He will probably be around a point per game player as well. Not quite, I don't think. With Minnesota, it's going to be tough, just because they don't really have that much of an offensive team. But I think Kirill Kaprizov is going to be the top end of their offense. I think him and Fiala will be scoring most of their points for forwards. So I think those 2 players are the only valuable offense on that team. And again, it's going to be really tough for Kirill Kaprizov as a new player coming into the league and really leading his team in scoring. So again, I would be a little bit more cautious with him, especially because we don't know if he's going to shoot a lot or if he's going to hit a lot. I imagine he shoots quite a bit. I don't think his hits will be up there just because he's kind of a smaller guy. But yeah, players that I wouldn't recommend that are added are players like Bobby Ryan. I think he's had a couple lucky goals right away. I think he's going to score. Maybe he scores a little bit more than he did the past year because he's already got 3 goals this season. But again, I don't trust Bobby Ryan for what I would do. I would never put him in or pick him up right now. Jeff Carter is another one. I would not pick up Jeff Carter. I mean, he's a little bit older, and I think he will be slower down the line. Usually a lot of the older guys that succeed at the beginning of the season start to slow down midway through because they just don't have the gas left in the tank. I mean, Jeff Carter's a great player. It has always been a great player, but when you have to be durable throughout a season, I just don't think he's going to be all there. Vincent Trocheck, he's not that bad of a pick. He could definitely have a bounce back season. He's added a lot in a lot of different leagues. Sam Girard, I don't think so. Not a big fan of him. Brandon Tanev, no. Kasperi Kapanen, yeah, he might do something this season. He's going to be on Pittsburgh, very offensive-minded team, and he's kind of newer. He was um, kind of held back in Toronto, I guess, because there were so many other talented forwards in Toronto. But um, yeah, I think other players that on teams that are kind of young, like Ottawa Senators, I think Drake Batherson's actually a really good ad. Uh, I know he didn't have the best game last game, and he had a really good game his first game, but he's kind of a player that it drives the play. He's a very hardworking player, and he's going to hit a lot. It looks like his peripherals are pretty good. He did hit, I think he had 5 hits last game or something like that. But he does hit quite a bit, and I think he's going to shoot a lot, and I think the points will follow up at least semi decently. Him and Brady are the real life Mighty Ducks Bash Brothers, so I think those guys will put up some points, but also a lot of hits and a lot of shots on goal. So I think he's actually not a bad player to pick up if you're looking for hits and shots on goal later in the draft, or if you didn't draft that way. Sorry. But yeah, aside from that, I think other players that you might want to avoid. It looks like Vanacek is taking over Washington's starting role tonight. I don't know if he will step up and take over Samsonov's spot. I think later down the line, in the middle of the season, Samsonov will retake that role if he struggled early. Varlamov is actually a really good ad. I think he will be the starting goalie for New York Islanders. I know they were trying to bring in Sorokin, but Sorokin didn't have the greatest start, and he's also kind of a smaller goalie, so it's going to be tough for him to adapt. Maybe he adapts next year. It might be a little bit tougher for him. I know I talked about how high up I was on these Russian goaltenders, but Sorokin is struggling a little bit early, and I could definitely see him maybe becoming a starting goalie towards the end of the season or maybe next year, something like that. But Varlamov has been doing really well to start the season. I could see him consistently doing that. I know it's a little bit early, and Sorokin only had like one start, but I think they're gonna really take it slow with Sorokin and let Varlamov keep going at it. Other players that are added recently, Pavel Buchnevich. I wouldn't personally add that guy. I know he's starting off hot, but he has kind of done this. He's a little bit streaky. He'll start off really hot, or he'll do something really well. But the New York Rangers are so deep that I could just see him scoring quite a bit at the beginning of the season, and then it's slowing down, and then like then he'll go 3 games without a point, then he'll score a point, and then maybe he'll score a point the next game, and then there would be like 4 or 5 games after that where he follows up with no points. It's kind of like the same deal that he's done in the past few years. I picked him up, so I would be a little bit concerned with that. He's also probably not going to get as much ice time with Lafreniere in the mix, Capo Caco, Mika Zibanejad, and Artemi Panarin. I think all those guys are going to get more time than him. And then I think on that New York Rangers team, I think you want to be a little bit more relaxed with players like Tony DeAngelo. I think he's going to be. I think if you be a little bit more patient with Tony DeAngelo, he'll get you points down the line. Aside from that, I can't really think of too many of these guys that are really that important. I mentioned Rasmus Anderson, Victor Arvidsson, all good options. Thomas Hertel, he should be picked up in a lot of these leagues. Same with Nick Suzuki. Burakovsky's a weird one. He could be good this season. It looks like he picked up where he left off last season. I could see him consistently being all right, at least. But again, I don't think you should expect him to be a point per game player. I think maybe 40 points or something like that would be really good with a lot of goals. So I could see that happening. Yeah, that's my 2 cents on the thoughts. Mackenzie Blackwood starting off really well. He should be picked up in your league, so if he's not, grab him. It looks like he is rostered in 66% of the league in leagues. But if he's available in your leagues, grab him right away. Unless you've got a really good goaltending depth, he's going to produce low goals against average. He's going to produce a high save percentage, low win totals. But again, I would still love to have him on my team. Maybe even some high shutouts as well. But I drafted him in my leagues. I don't know why he's even available, especially with Corey Crawford out for the season. Doesn't make much sense because Mackenzie Blackwood is a for sure starter on a very defensive team. You always want those players. Jake Allen, I don't think is too valuable. I think that's all I got to say on the matter. I don't think Joel. I'm not a big fan of Joel Farabee. I was gonna post a video on this, but obviously he's been pointless for the past 2 games. So it might look like I'm just kind of favoring the recency bias. But again, even after that first game, I didn't pick him up because I knew that he was going to regress quite a bit. I expect him to get like maybe 35 points this season, something like that. But I wouldn't take Joel Farabee over someone like I would maybe look at someone more like Alexander Texier or maybe even a Jack Hughes, someone that's going to produce points or something like that. But again, Jack Hughes is probably not going to be the type of guy that puts up those peripheral stats. So yeah, that's all I got to say on the matter. Those are all the players that have been recently added quite a bit. I just wanted to catch up on those type of players. A lot of the players that I did mention that would break out this season that are going to be really high Calder favorites, meaning Kirill Kaprizov, Anthony Mantha. He's looked good so far. He just hasn't been putting up as many points as you'd expect. He'll probably continue to do well this season, though. And then Kyler Yamamoto. All 3 of those guys have been doing pretty good. Lafreniere is probably the 4th guy that I said with the Calder voting that hasn't really stepped it up yet, and I think it might take him a little bit more time to adapt as a rookie. But yeah, that's all I got to say. Thank you for watching. Feel free to comment and ask me questions. I will definitely answer them. If you have any situations which you want to pick some players up and drop some, I definitely have my opinions and stuff. I know in that one league that I had Tyler Toffoli drafted, I ended up dropping him even though it was pretty early. I just didn't really like the looks that he was getting on Montreal, and I think Montreal is just not always consistently scoring. So I dropped him, and I picked up a player like Drake Batherson, stuff like that. But yeah, I can show you guys my watch list if you guys want me to do that. Just let me know. Thank you.